Okay, back. The computer had a glitch. Okay, so she prefers we use her code name, explained Rhonda. She's shy about her real name. For no good reason, if you ask me. It's a perfectly fine name. For good reasons or not, we all have things we're shy about, said Mr. Benedict, with a significant look at Sticky, who immediately took to polishing his glasses. Kate and Rainey glanced at each other wonderingly. I know you have questions, Mr. Benedict said, and I may be able to offer some answers now, though some must come later. What's on your mind? I'd like to know who we're waiting for, said Kate. That I can answer. Her name is Constant Contraire, a test taker like yourselves. I must say she's given us all quite a turn. A most amusing child. Rhonda, how many pencils did you say she brought with her this morning? 37, said Rhonda with a shake of her head. We tell her to bring one and she brings 37. How do you know that? Sticky asked. Rhonda shrugged. She told me so herself. Remember the storm drain? Constance stopped to help me, but instead of trying to get my pencil back, she simply opened her raincoat. She had pockets and pockets full of pencils. 37, she said. Just help yourself. Wasn't that cheating? Kate asked. Why wasn't she disqualified? It was certainly taking a risk, said Mr. Benedict. However, she refused the test answers Rhonda offered her, and the point of the test wasn't to see if you would bring only one pencil, you know. The pencil itself is inconsequential. Rainey was curious about something else. Why was she wearing a raincoat? It was sunny outside today. You're an attentive listener, said Mr. Benedict. That should serve you well. Will serve us all well, I dare say. As for the raincoat, I believe she wore it to conceal the pencils. But why bring all those pencils? Kate said, exasperated. It's ridiculous. If that amuses you, Kate, said Mr. Benedict, you might also enjoy some of her test answers. Let me see, I believe I have them right here. He disappeared behind the desk, again followed closely by Rhonda, who stood watchfully as he shuffled among some papers. The children could see just the top of his rumpled head as he searched. Ah, here it is, he said, stepping back around the desk. As before, Rhonda positioned herself close to his side. He scanned the pages. Oh, here's a clever one. Do you remember this question from the first test? It reads, what is wrong with this statement? And do you know what Constant wrote in reply? She wrote, what is wrong with you? At this point, Mr. Benedict burst into laughter, a squeaky, rapid, stuttering explosion that sounded rather like a dolphin. The children's faces wrinkled in confusion. Here's another, said Mr. Benedict. Remember this one? It shows a picture of a chessboard with only a black pawn out of its original position, and it reads, according to the rules of chess, is this position possible? Constance writes in response, rules and schools are tools for fools. I don't give 2 mules for rules. Again, Mr. Benedict laughed his dolphin laugh. This time he couldn't stop, but laughed louder and louder until tears entered his eyes. And then, without warning, his eyes closed, his chin dropped to his chest, and he fell asleep. Rhonda leapt forward to catch his glasses, which had slipped from his nose. Fortunately, Mr. Benedict had been leaning against the desk. When he fell asleep, he only slumped forward a bit and didn't fall to the floor. Even so, Rhonda took him carefully about the waist and said, quick, one of you bring me a chair. Kate jumped to her feet and slid her chair over. Rhonda lowered Mr. Benedict onto it and eased his head into a comfortable position. His breathing deepened into a gentle snore, as if he had been asleep for hours. Recovering from his surprise, Rainey realized why Rhonda and number 2 stuck so close to Mr. Benedict when he walked around. If he often fell asleep like this, he must risk some nasty falls. Is he all right? Sticky whispered. Oh, yes, he's fine, Rhonda said. "He'll be awake any moment. He seldom sleeps longer than a minute or two." And indeed, even as she spoke, Mr. Benedict's eyes fluttered open, and he rose abruptly from the chair and said, "Ah!" Taking out his pocket watch, he squinted to read it, then touched the bridge of his nose as if searching for something. "I'm afraid I can't read without my glasses." "Here," said Rhonda, handing them to him. "Thank you." With his glasses on, Mr. Benedict checked the watch and gave a nod of satisfaction. "Only a few moments, then. That's good. I would hate to have left you waiting for long." He gave a ferocious yawn and ran his fingers sleepily through his hair, as people often do when they first wake, which likely accounted for its disheveled state. "This is another thing I need to explain to you," said Mr. Benedict. "I have a condition known as narcolepsy. Are you familiar with it?" "Sure. It's a disorder characterized by sudden and uncontrollable attacks of deep sleep," said Sticky, then ducked his head shyly. "At least, that's what the dictionary says." "The dictionary is correct. Although the condition takes different forms with different people, in my case an attack is usually triggered by strong emotion. For this reason, I wear green plaid suits. I discovered years ago that green plaid has a soothing effect on me, and always try to remain calm. However, every now and then I must allow myself a hearty laugh. Don't you agree? What is life without laughter?" The children, uneasy, nodded politely. "Now then, where did we leave off? Oh, yes, Constance. I take it you didn't find her answers as amusing as I do. I'm not sure, however. Perhaps you laughed while I was sleeping?" He glanced at them hopefully, but was met with blank faces. "Well, perhaps you'll find this amusing." Instead of answering the questions on the second test, she composed a long poem about the absurdity of the test and its rules, particularly about the missing fourth step, which apparently reminded her of donut holes because these were the topic of a second poem. She is very irritated, it seems, that every donut contains a hole. She feels she's being robbed. I remember a particularly felicitous rhyme between flaky bereft and bakery theft. Let's see, where was it? I have it right here. He began flipping through the test pages. Excuse me," Sticky said. "Sir, how is it this girl passed the test if she didn't answer any of the questions? I mean, if she didn't even try?" "There are tests," said Mr. Benedict, "and then there are tests." "I beg your pardon?" "It will all become clear presently, Sticky. Ah, here they are at last." The door was opening, and into the room now came number 2, looking vexed, followed by Milligan, looking gloomy, and with them was Constance Contraire, looking very, very small. It took a moment for the children to realize that Constance had arrived with the others. From Milligan's sad face, their eyes had to travel quite a distance downward before lighting upon the girls. She was very little indeed, and very pudgy too, which made her almost exactly the size and shape of a fire hydrant. A resemblance strengthened by her red raincoat and rosy red cheeks. Rainie's first impulse was to feel sorry for her. It must be difficult to be so much smaller than other children. But then Constance gave him a cross look, as if she positively disliked him. And Rainie's sympathy diminished.